Welcome to Discovery IAS Academy's online platform. In the last class, we discussed about the remaining commitments as enshrined in the preamble. If you remember, we had talked about secularism in general and secularism in India also. Very importantly, we had distinguished the practice of secularism in the Western countries and in India, and we talked about the nature of secularism, that was complete separation between state and religion in the Western societies and religious tolerance in India. Then the next commitment we had discussed, that was democracy and the forms of democracy in India, plus the guiding principles like justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. In the last class, I had also informed you that we will be starting part 1 of the Constitution, and before you take on the class, you must have a bare act in your hand so that you are able to read the articles, and accordingly you will be able to understand the meaning of the words written in the article and how the Constitution provides the guidelines to the governance. So, in today's class, we will be starting part 1, that is from article 1 to 4 of the Constitution. Now, before I discuss in details, let us have a look on the constitutional provisions and let us have a reading of the articles. What do they say? You are seeing part 1, and the title of the part 1 is The Union and its Territory. Now, what does this signify? It talks about the Union and the territory which it is referring to. This territory belongs to the Union. So, this part is concerned with the Union aspect or unionism in philosophical terms, and the territory of the country of India which belongs to the Union. Now, let us see name and territory of the Union. What it says: India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. India, comma, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. This is a highly philosophical statement. It talks about India and Bharat. So, the first thing what should come in our mind is why there are two different words separated by this, that is, which we also write this way, must have seen. Then it shall be, it means it has to be. There is no denial, there is no exception, and it should be a union, one union of states. So, it has different meanings that we will discuss in details after a few minutes. Right now, I am trying to point out how the article reads. Then, the states and the territories thereof. Thereof means the territories of the states shall be as specified in the first schedule. We had discussed in initial classes that Indian Constitution originally had 8 schedules and presently it has 12 schedules. So, the first schedule tells the names of the states and the union territories. That is what the article says, clause 2, that the states and the territories of these states, territories thereof, shall be as specified in the first schedule. Then clause 3 says the territory of India shall comprise. Territory of India means of the Union. The territories of the states, the Union territories specified in the first schedule, and such other territories as may be acquired. So there are three components of the territories of the state. Interestingly, the word acquired, which comes from acquisition, is not defined here. So we need to have a precise definition of the word acquisition. This is Article 1. So Article 1 has Clause 1, Clause 2, Clause 3, Subclause A, Subclause B, Subclause C. So this is the Article 1. Then Article 2 says admission or establishment of new states. There are two words. We need to know the meaning of admission, the meaning of establishment. Or is here, so what is the word hidden? Either. Either admission or establishment. For new states, Parliament may by law admit into the Union or establish new states on such terms and conditions as it thinks fit. The correct way of reading article in the Constitution is to have slow reading. Slow reading means not giving pauses. Slow reading means giving focus to all words, even conjunctions, punctuation marks, everything. So it says that Parliament, who is authorized? The authority is with the Parliament. But that authority is possible only when Parliament has been given the power through law. So Parliament has to make a law for admitting any new state or for establishing a new state on such terms and conditions as it means Parliament thinks fit. So this is the discretion of Parliament. So it is a kind of discretionary powers given to Parliament, but very interestingly, whenever you give discretionary powers to any agency or any authority, the chances are that the agencies and authorities might become autocratic or arbitrary. So despite the fact that Parliament has been given discretionary powers here to admit or establish a new state, it cannot become arbitrary because without a law, this cannot exercise its powers. So there is a supremacy of law and the law supersedes Parliament or parliamentary authority. So Parliament is the supreme body, still it cannot go beyond law. So by law, any of the new states can either be admitted or established. The third article says formation of the new states. Now see the difference. One word is here admission, another word is here establishment, and the third word is coming here formation. Rest all are similar, new states, new states. So new states can be added into the territory of the Union or territory of India either by admission or by establishment or by formation. Admission or establishment is governed by Article 2 and formation by Article 3. This is already asked questions in prelims. That admission of a new state is governed by which of the following articles? So this is already asked question. So let us not get confused. Once we understand the meanings of these words, then it will be clear. That we will discuss later on. Alteration of areas, boundaries or names of existing states. Parliament may by law, again, form a new state by separation of territory from any state or by uniting two or more states or parts of states, or by uniting any territory to a part of any state. Anything it can do. Increase the area of any state. Then diminish the area of any state. Alter the boundaries of any state and alter the name of any state. So, anything Parliament can do, but it has to make a law for all such purposes. The proviso of this is called proviso. Proviso to the article. The proviso describes the procedure how this new state can be formed. That we'll discuss later on. And Article 4 tells about the impact of this either admission or establishment or formation of a new state. If a new state is added into the territory of India, what will be its consequence? What will be its effect? So, that is talked about in Article 4. So, this is what the Constitution has in Part 1, Article 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, before we discuss the details, what we derive out of this thing is Part 1, 1 to 4 deal with political design of India. Now, before we enter into the political design of India, let us understand what is meant by a political design. Design here means structure. How many types of political designs we have in the world or we could have in the world? Let us discuss first that. And I expect that we will concentrate on this because that is going to be very, very important so far as preliminary questions are concerned or even in mains. And above all, without understanding these political designs, it would not be possible for you to understand the intricacies of the union-state relationships in India. So, try to concentrate and understand. So, there are three broad divisions of political designs. One is called union. The second is federation and the third is confederation. These are the three possible designs or structures. Let us see one by one. Union. In unitary states, what we have? We have a central government which gives powers to local bodies, and through these local bodies they regulate citizens. This is the unitary structure of a country. Say for example, Britain, France, Japan, etc. In any of these unitary states, the central government is the most powerful, which gives powers to the local bodies. That local body may be just like what we have in India, like panchayats or district administration. So, the central government will give powers to the local bodies, and local bodies will regulate and control the citizens. Now, since the source of the powers of local bodies is the central government, so the central government also has the authority to withdraw these powers if need be. Maybe all, maybe some of them. So, it is on the mercy of the central government which type of power shall be given to the local bodies and how to regulate the citizens. Very important thing here to be noted is that most of the unitary states are geographically small. Union, local bodies, people. If this radius of the circle is a small, it is easier for the center to distribute the resources or to make available the resources down to the grassroots level. So, most of the countries what I have written here must be knowing that Britain, France and Japan are smaller countries geographically. But there are states which have authoritarian rule. They may also be unitary despite the fact that they might be geographically large. For example, China. China is politically communist. So, it is authoritarian command. So, China being geographically vast country, still it has unitary structure to have the vertical command over the provinces. So, since China is a large country, so the center has made the provinces. But the provincial governments are just like local bodies. They do not have governors like what we have in India. They do not have governors like what the United States has. They are just like local bodies. So, China calls them also local governments. But since the territory is very vast, so they have created provinces, and through provinces they go to people. So, exceptionally, a geographically large country may also be unitary if it has authoritarian rule. Otherwise, mostly the countries which are unitary are geographically small. This is one type of political design. The second is federation. The term originates from a Greek word fedos, which means agreement or covenant. Covenant is binding agreement. So, when you say a federation, it means the political design of that country which is federal must have an agreement or a covenant between its units. This is a general perception. However, the term is not precisely defined. Hence, federal designs are country specific. So India has its own federation, US has its own federation, Switzerland has its own federation, Canada has its own federation. Primarily, or the common thread is that it should have an agreement between the units. It may not have an agreement. Still, it can be a federation. That we will discuss while talking about the classification of federations. So, let us have a look of this structure. How does it look? You have a central government and regional governments. One, regional government 2, regional government 3, government 4, and they are bound by an agreement. And they have made the central government. This is the design of a federation as per the meaning of the word feders. Now, why I said regional government? Because these regional governments are named according to the country. Their names vary from country to country. Like in India, we have states, India and US, we call them cantons. In Switzerland, we call them lands. In Germany, we call them province. In say Pakistan, and we call them oblast in Russia. So different names have been given to these regional governments. That's why we in generalized way we can write that federations are formed due to an agreement between the regional governments, and all these regional governments will make the center and will give certain powers to the center. That is a federation. The point here to be noted is that none of the units is permitted to come out of the agreement. So we say federation is a tight association of various regional units, and any of the regional units cannot come out, and all these regional units, after having a relation through an agreement or covenant, will create a center, give certain powers to that central government, and the remaining powers lie with the regional governments or the states or provinces. This is a federation. A confederation is similar to federation. You are seeing the word is here, federation. Confederation is also more or less the same thing, same arrangement. Say for example, in Switzerland, we have a confederal structure where we call the regional governments cantons. So there are 24 cantons and there are 2 half cantons. Half means they give one member from that canton, and the remaining 24 will give 2 members. So Switzerland has the confederal structure, means these regional governments will unite through an agreement, create a center, give certain powers to the center, but it is permitted that they can come out of the agreement. So, it is a loose association, unlike federation. Otherwise, in a structural design, both confederation and federations are similar. In that sense, in truly, none of the countries in the world at present has true confederal structure or true confederal design. Most of the countries are federations and the remaining are unitary. But theoretically, conceptually, we may have a confederal structure, and if that confederal structure exists, the units may have the units have the space or option to come out of the agreement. Now, the confederations, since it is not at the national level, the confederations are of two types. One is called supranational confederations and another is called subnational confederations. There is no national confederation. There is no political design in true sense as confederation. So, either above the nation, supra is above, or sub is below, under. So, either outside the boundary of the state or within the boundaries of the state. There could be two possible forms of confederations. I am writing an example, you will understand. European Union is a confederal structure. So, any of the members of the European Union has the space or option to come out. Must have heard Brexit, exit of Britain. So, that is a supranational confederation, that units may come out. Until they come out, they will join hands through an agreement, give power to the central command authority or central authority, and accordingly they will function. So, one is EU, another is Commonwealth of Independent States. CIS, which was formed after the dismantling of the Soviet Union. The Soviet republics signed an agreement and they formed this CIS after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So, such bodies are the supranational confederations. Subnational is, an example here is CII in India, that is Confederation of Indian Industry. So, confederation either is supranational like EU or Commonwealth of Independent States, or subnational within the boundaries of a country, within the boundaries of a state, in an agency or an organization may serve like a confederation. So, these are the three broadly classified political designs. Unitary state, central government gives powers to the local bodies to regulate the citizens. Generally, geographically smaller countries, in authoritarian states, even if it is large like China, it may have unitary structure. In federal structure, most of the federations are formed on the basis of an agreement or covenant, and they form the center, give the powers to the center, certain powers, but none of the units is permitted to come out of the agreement. So, it is a tight association, and confederation is a loose association similar to the federal structure, but any of the units has the option to come out of the agreement or covenant. This way we can understand the three major political designs. Now, coming back to the term federation, let us understand two more things in this. First, fundamental principles of a federation. Now, what we have learnt here, no definition, that we already discussed. Then, country specific, generally a result of an agreement between units. These are the three major features of a federation. So, there are three fundamental principles by which a federation is governed. One is command, second is coordination, and third is subsidiarity. There are three fundamental principles. Command is that the unit has to follow or obey the orders, the guidelines